Welcome to the 2026 Fairfax Area High School Student Shark Tank Technology Challenge. I'm Carmen Trina Kiris with the Department of Neighborhood and Community Services, and I'm excited to kick off this year's competition. High school students across Fairfax County were challenged to create innovative solutions that can improve the lives of older adults, individuals with disabilities, and their caregivers. We received many submissions and 6 standout teams emerged. Today, they step into the tank to pitch their ideas for a chance to win a cash prize. A huge thank you to Integrity One Partners for making the awards possible. This marks their 10th year in supporting this event, and we truly appreciate their continued commitment. We'll start with opening remarks from NCS Director Lloyd Tucker and Dr. Michelle Reed, Superintendent of Fairfax County Public Schools, followed by presentations from teams 1 and 2. But first, let's meet our judges. Pete Lamont is Partner and Chief Operating Officer at Integrity One Partners, a professional services firm specializing in management and IT consulting for federal government clients. Corey Singleton is a Deputy ADA Coordinator for Accessibility at George Mason University and manager of the Assistant Technology Initiative within the Office for Access, Compliance, and Community. Rolando Muraraz is an information technology educator at the Hybla Valley Community Center. He's passionate about 3D design and emerging tech, teaching students through hands-on experience with 3D printers, design software, and digital fabrication tools. Raman Gudamapur is an information technology educator at the Gum Springs Community Center. He teaches students how to navigate the digital world with a focus on coding, cybersecurity, and computer literacy. Mariana Shank is Assistant Director of Day Program Services at Service Source, an organization that supports more than 500 adults with disabilities across 14 locations in Northern Virginia. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Michelle Reed, Superintendent of Fairfax County Public Schools.
Good morning, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be here for the 10th annual 2026 Shark Tank Technology Challenge. It's wonderful to see so many young innovators here today from FCPS, and especially a big thanks to our sharks, our judges, who are going to be here and have made this event possible, taking time out of their busy schedules to be part of our students' future and the opportunity to see the great work that's happening in our classrooms as well. These types of partnerships between Fairfax County and Fairfax County Public Schools showcase the work of our strategic plan, including Goal 4, which is the equitable access and opportunity, where we commit to making sure every student in every neighborhood across our great county has an opportunity to showcase their talents and access technology in ways that really will help shape our collective future. This challenge is especially meaningful because it focuses on developing applications and devices to enhance the lives of our older community, which I might know a little bit about. And we're really excited that our young people are able to find tools and ways in which to make our lives a little simpler so we have a little more time to spend doing the things we love. As we think about the inclusion and innovation of our young people, I want to make sure you know that your projects will fill a variety of important gaps, including supports for communications, cognitive wellness, mobility, daily life management, and so much more. In today's teams, we're counting on you to be the next generation of scientists, innovators, leaders, and problem solvers. No matter which neighborhoods you're coming from, what schools you're coming from, or what your background is and excitement and passion, we're really excited to see how you move out into the future and shape a better world for all of us. And of course, we hope you come back to Fairfax County and make this part of your technology future because, you know, Northern Virginia, I think, is the center of all things in this amazing country. My hope is that each of you take the excitement, the fun, your creativity, problem-solving skills, and most importantly, that sense of curiosity with you today and into the future. As I tell my senior cabinet leaders, it's so important that we stay curious just a little bit longer. sometimes we rush to decisions or make assessments and sometimes create bigger problems for ourselves. So my word is stay curious just a little bit longer. So thank you for taking time to prepare for today. Thank you, Sharks, for swimming in these Fairfax waters this morning. And thank you, County, for supporting this activity. And I hope you have a great contest. Good luck.
Thanks so much, Dr. Reed. It is now my pleasure to welcome NCS Director Lloyd Tucker to share his remarks.
Good morning, and thank you so much for our competitors for being here. Thank you so much, judges. It's an honor to be here and take part in our second NCS-sponsored Shark Tank competition, and of course, our 10th competition overall. Thank you so much. Like I said, it's an honor, but also I want to ensure that our community members understand that we're really promoting multi-generational programming and the services that we provide within NCS, but in the county and our school system cover the whole continuum of our lifespan. We really want to make sure that our competitors are promoting networking and that they're learning who else is doing the type of work that they're researching, that they are challenging and questioning the why and what is going on to whatever perhaps barriers to mobility or access that our older adults are having. But the biggest thing I think that's a part of the innovation that they have displayed and shown us is the fact that they are experimenting and that they want these things to work so that we can, like I said, improve the mobility and provide accommodations to folks who need to access services and be able to participate freely and barrier-free in the county. So thank you so much for the time and the energy that you all have put into this, and I'm excited to see how things turn out. Thank you so much.
Now let's welcome the team from Woodson High School with their project N1 Glasses. Take it away, team.
Hi, my name's Logan.
My name's Lucas. I'm Mayu. In Sharks, this is our innovation, the N1 glasses, an alternative to hearing aids.
The problem. About 1.6 billion people worldwide live with some degree of hearing loss. So a big problem that I've struggled with all my life is actually a hearing impairment in my right ear. And to combat this, I wore this hearing aid from 4th grade to middle school And a big problem that not a lot of people realize about hearing aids is actually the social stigma around hearing aids. So when I first entered my classroom in 4th grade, I realized immediately my peers and teachers started treating me differently. Whether or not they want to or not, like subconsciously, most people end up treating you differently just because of the device that you're wearing. My teachers and peers would speak slower or louder. Like, God, I was here just yesterday without this hearing aid, and you guys weren't treating me like this, right? So it's not a very comfortable feeling to have. In middle school, I decided I want to be treated as I was before, and I decided to stop wearing it, and I was presented with a new problem almost immediately. Now I can't hear perfectly fine, right? So now I have to choose. Do I want to hear with perfect clarity, or do I want to be treated normally, I guess, right? And that's not really a choice that you should have to deal with. That choice between, being treated normally and perfect hearing. So we decided this year we want to work on something that could help with that problem. We want to create a solution that is so discreet that people don't even know you're hearing impaired until you first mention it to them.
Yeah, so that's where our solution comes in, the N1 glasses. So what the N1 glasses are actually able to do is visually show where sound comes from with an optical waveguide display, which I'll get into now. So as you can see here in this image, this is how it looks. So for example, if Logan here is behind me and he's talking to me, the glasses will actually show a visual indicator in the user's field of view, in this case pointing backwards to signal that there's sound coming from behind the user. This applies in all directions for all sounds. So if Logan's talking to me on my left, it'll also show an arc pointing to the left. If there's a car to my right, it'll show an arc pointing to the right, and so on. And so here's a diagram of our product. So what the glasses actually use to display that arc is an optical waveback display. So this is the technology that is used in most of the popular augmented reality glasses that are on the market currently. So maybe the Meta glasses, if you heard of those, we use the same technology as they do. And the way that the waveguide actually works is that it displays what is essentially like a hologram in your vision. So it's not really distracting at all. It's not blocking your vision like putting a transparent TV screen in front of your face. It's really more like a hologram. And the way that the glasses are able to detect where sound is coming from is with the help of an 8 microphone array, which we have in the top right here. So along the frame, there are 8 microphones. And here you can see that we've actually used a printed circuit board to mount all the microphones along the frame. You can see a close-up of the microphones there, the components. And yeah, this iteration is actually an improvement of an old version. So here we're using a printed circuit board to avoid using as many wires as we have right here. So these are some old iterations. You can see very, very messy. So it wasn't aligning with our vision of making like a discrete product. So yeah. So now we're going to do a quick demo. The way that this is going to work is we're going to turn the screen around and we're going to show you what Logan is seeing. So Logan's going to turn around and face that way. And then, oh, okay. Going to be a little bit awkward, but okay. Hopefully you can see that well. But so for example, here, if I'm on the left side of Logan, you'll see that it is pointing to the left. So it is telling him that I'm to the left of him. If I move around maybe to the front, you'll see that there's also an arc pointing to the front. And then the same thing, if I move here on his right side, the same thing will happen. So that's essentially how the product works. So yeah. Okay, it's a demo. And now.
So Sharks, let's move on to the market. Currently, our product essentially operates in a blue ocean market, allowing us to differentiate ourselves from other competitors. Our M1 glasses introduce a new key novel method of displaying visual cues through a different sense and being able to have that directionality feature that other assistive devices on the market currently do not focus on. Here, we have a table where we introduce hearing aids, cochlear implants, and we also have nuanced audio, which is basically hearing aids implemented into glasses. So it does give them that social stigma aspect and shows that what's on the market and what's already working, and it shows that it is working. Currently, we have directionality. We are able to have that low social stigma aspect. It's also non-surgical, unlike cochlear implants, and it aids the profoundly deaf. So for cochlear implants and for hearing aids and for nuanced audio, they help in general. However, in certain cases, such as having a damaged auditory nerve, cochlear implants are unable to help that because they base their technology based off of that auditory cortex. And that's when our N1 comes in and steps in and provides an extra layer of safety for those individuals with a damaged auditory cortex and allows them to become more individual, independent, and navigate the world more safely. Another key point I want to mention is the price. While other assistive devices on the market are priced around $1,000 or in the thousands, ours is priced in the hundreds. This allows us to become more accessible and allow us to reach out to more demographics, as well as being able to outreach more and kind of get our product out there to be able to test more, get social validation, continued social validation, and make a bigger social impact for the community. Another key thing I want to note here is in the first column, it says amplify sound. Currently, we're researching that and being able to basically put hearing aids into our glasses, such as nuanced audio, which gives us the best of both worlds. And with this amplified sound, we actually got it from audiologists that we contact, code emails, deaf and hard of hearing individuals, as well as the NVRC, which we'll get into later.
So for testing, before we actually created our device, we put out a survey on several different social media platforms, including Facebook and Reddit, just reaching out to local deaf and hard of hearing communities out there to get like data on whether or not this would be actual useful innovation for these people. So the first data I want to really show you is how useful it seemed to these people. We had around 50 responses, but the sample size is 19 for the people who are actually deaf and hard of hearing. Most people who are actually deaf and hard of hearing find it extremely useful, very useful, and moderately useful, which really shows how useful it could be to have this kind of device in the market. Interest in using the system. This is more around like whether or not they would actually purchase it after after it is put out in the market. And again, you can see a majority found it extremely useful and interesting. Preferred visual cues, we gathered this data to really see how they would want it presented. As I said before, this was before we created the device. So as you can see, a majority wanted a directional arc to represent which direction sound is coming from rather than an arrow, and that's what we ended up deciding for our device. The scenarios where N1 would have been useful, this really shows that this is an active problem that a lot of people do struggle with. For the first example, there's a frustrated daughter who's frustrated because their parent doesn't know like when they're talking to them, right? Which is a big concern, really. Or the second example, where they're in a meeting and they didn't know that the person on the other side of the table was talking, right? Like being able to identify that is very important for everyday usage, and there's really no device that really helps with that. As Lucas was talking about earlier, hearing aids and cochlear implants, like they're very limited on directionality. They amplify sound, but because they're omnidirectional microphones, you don't get the same amount of directionality as you do with normal hearing, where you can kind of tell what direction sound is coming from, because not only do you have two ears, but your ears work in a way that make it easier to tell what direction sound is coming from. But just having a speaker in there only helps you to a certain extent. For feedback, this was after we actually created our device, and we went on a Zoom meeting with the NVRC, which, as Lucas was talking about earlier, that is the deaf and hard of hearing community here in the Nova area. They gave us a bunch of useful improvement advice and another usage case where for the profoundly deaf, people who can't hear whatsoever, hearing aids aren't actually a useful tool to them, because hearing aids amplify sound, but if you can't hear whatsoever, how can amplifying sound really help you? They really have no device that addresses this solution properly, and having a device like this that, instead of amplifying sound, interprets it visually could really help these people. The other stuff on the feedback is really improvements that we received and are actually currently working on. 3D directionality, being able to tell not only forward and back, but up and down. Compatibility with prescriptions. Our glasses aren't prescription, of course. Augmented reality technology with prescriptions do exist, but it's much harder to do, which is something that we are working on. Pitch-based visuals, depending on how high the frequency or low the frequency, it will visually like expand the arc or not, which is a very useful tool, especially if you're profoundly deaf. You can't hear whatsoever. Knowing whether or not it's a high frequency or low frequency can really help you. Subtitles, being able to know what they're saying, and then sound classification. Knowing what the sound is another thing that is actually the most important thing that we're working towards right now, because knowing what direction sound is coming from is important, but knowing whether or not it's like a car honking, a dog barking is very important.
Yeah, so moving on to the finance. Currently, we're planning on pricing our product at $600, with the majority of the cost being our projector and waveguide. Our projector and waveguide has, like Maya has mentioned, is a very industrial level, very high quality, and basically industry grade projector and waveguide, which allows us to display images very clearly and very discreetly. Our next cost comes with the PCB and microcontroller, which we estimate to be around $50 after being able to improve on it, optimize it, and continue to develop it. And then for our frame, it's a measly $5, but it still amounts to our production cost. And then for our profit, we have $357 of profit, which we'll use to reinvest directly back into the development, outreaching, and just creating a better product for the deaf and hard of hearing community.
Just something to note, just going back to that waveguide, as Lucas was mentioning, something that I forgot to mention was that this waveguide, as Lucas said, is an industrial part, so it's not commercial. And so it was very difficult to get, but we were able to reach out to a distributor of an optics company, and through them we were able to obtain this device. And it was very expensive, but we actually got help from our school. We got 2 grants for this project, and with their help we were able to purchase it. So yeah. And just for the future of this device, so year 1, so this year we're looking on obviously developing the product further, working on it more to make it better and refining it. And we're also, as Lucas and Logan mentioned, we're already talking with the NVRC, we're in contact with them, but we hope to sustain that relationship and hopefully reach out to other deaf and hard of hearing communities in our local area. And then year 2, next year, we hope to form formal business relationships. So hopefully with companies that produce assistive technology. And then year 3, maybe acquisition. So yeah, let's build the future of assistive technology. Thank you.
Fantastic. Mayu, it's good to see you again. And I really appreciate when you guys started off with the blue ocean strategy. You guys have really thought about your market in this thing. And that's not a term typically I hear with really young people. I do have a question when it comes to the lenses. You talk about being able to use subtitles in these things. Can you tell me more about how that might work in the future?
Yeah, so a technique that we're using is actually auditory beamforming, which allows us to kind of separate the audio sources. So we're using 8 microphones for a very important reason. So we can actually identify several sound sources at once in the future. For example, if someone was talking this way and there was a dog barking this way, it wouldn't just be overwhelmed. It would be able to focus in on the person speaking and also the dog barking, right? So we would identify, oh, there's a dog barking this way, and then the way the subtitles would work is it would actually tell you what the person is saying in that direction. So you could even hear several people at once. If someone was talking here, someone was talking here, maybe it might say like inaudible like chatter, but like you would know that someone's speaking here and then someone's speaking here.
Just to build off of what Logan was saying about the beamformer, we're actually using a beamformer right now, but for a different purpose. So one big issue that we've noticed is, especially in like very noisy environments, the algorithms that we use tend to get pretty confused when there's a lot of stuff going on. So we actually use the beamformer to essentially lock on to certain sounds. So like if Logan is talking to me and there's some scuffling going around, the beamformer will reinforce sound coming from his direction and then cancel out the other ones. And when I say like reinforce the sound or cancel out, I don't mean like it doesn't play any sound, but I'm saying for the algorithm, it makes it easier for the algorithm to like really lock on and identify him as the speaker. So.
Very good. Thank you.
I think this is an awesome job. I think you guys did a great presentation. Really impressed with the product. And you answered some questions I had already, which was sound classification, so I'm glad you addressed that. I also love that you partnered with, or had a conversation at least with MVRC, because they brought up a lot of the things I had questions about. This is kind of my wheelhouse because I'm a hearing aid user, and I'm deaf in my left ear, partially in the right, so I'm always having trouble with localizing sound. So I think you guys did an awesome job touching on that as well. One thing I would ask is, did you look at how this might compare with technologies out there like CrossFit? So if I'm a hearing aid user, like I'm deaf in my left ear, but I can get 2 hearing aids and then have one that's passing sound to the right and kind of understand. Did you look into technologies like that and how that might impact your market?
So yeah, we have. Maybe Logan can maybe speak on this because he's talked about how maybe his hearing aid doesn't always help in those scenarios, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I've had issues with just one hearing. I mean, I have good hearing on my left ear, but not my right. But I have had localization problems even with my hearing aid on in certain situations. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Yeah, to add on, while researching, we actually did find a very surprising source which did indicate how even though hearing aids do, by amplifying sound, help individuals localize sound, they still have some slight issues in certain scenarios, which even surprised us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just to answer your question directly about like competitors, so like the main purpose, I know it's not exactly super discreet right now, but the plan is to keep getting more discreet. So to answer your question about how we would deal with other competitors like that provide those services, really the difference is, like you mentioned before, the social stigma aspect. So we're really working to fix that. And we believe that if we were able to create a product as discreet as maybe the Meta glasses, but with this technology built into it, we could address that issue in the market that isn't really being addressed right now.
All right, thank you.
What's up, guys? It's a pretty cool idea. I've never seen anything like that. But just by looking at it, like you said, when you first put the picture with all the wires, like just look at, you see all those green wires. Like I don't have hearing aids, but I wouldn't want to, like you were talking about, like you're embarrassed to wear your hearing aid. I would take your idea and try to streamline and hide those wires, like in the frame of the glasses, so it looks more like the Meta glass. Your idea is really cool. I think you just need to tinker around with like the actual product.
Yeah, so this is right now a prototype stage, so yeah, you do see a lot of wiring, which is not amazing. But we actually did, we are currently working on a model right now, and all of these designs and all of the PCBs and wiring, we were able to fit it inside the frame using our CAD, but we haven't printed it yet. But yeah, that is definitely something that we're working towards.
So you're 3D printing prototypes?
Yes.
Awesome.
Sure, yeah. I guess I can like add on a little bit. Yeah, so for our 3D printing software, we use Onshape, and then for our PCBs, we use KiCad. Very simple, very easy, and
Yeah, I use that.
yeah.
Cool. Good job, guys.
So I thought you all did fantastic. It really, I have a lot of my questions you guys end up answering. So I'm just gonna ask, do you guys have any, in the future, any designs that you could maybe go outside just like glasses? Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Dragon Ball Z, but the first thing I thought was like the Scouter, you know what I mean? Like you have one eye or anything. But do you guys have any other designs you guys might do outside of just glasses?
That's a very interesting question. Why do you want to touch up on that?
So really, we haven't really gone into that much, just because when we were trying to think of a way that we could solve this issue of localization in a way that's discrete, the first thing that popped in our heads, especially with now the popularization of like augmented reality glasses on the market right now, like Meta for, in their case, productivity, we really went in this direction with the glasses, but we have actually thought about other designs, maybe like a smartwatch or something like that, but we did find that it might be harder for the algorithms to get a good sampling in that format, just because the algorithm benefits more when there are more microphones spaced out like this. So in a smaller form factor, like on a watch, it might not be as effective. So this is the best solution that we have right now.
Yeah. To add on to that, smartwatch would be less effective because we do want it to be like constantly running, because the point is to increase your spatial awareness, right? Because if it was on the smartwatch, then you'd have to check your watch every time, right? And that's like you won't always be aware of stuff. Like what if there's a car like zooming by and you wouldn't know because you're not checking your watch, right? Another thing I want to add on is, as we mentioned before with the device comparison, we are trying to kind of implement hearing aids into the system. Have you guys heard of Shock's headphones? It's like bone conducting on the temple. So while hearing aids require you to have it in your ear, I guess, if you notice, like glasses actually are right there in that temple area. So we are trying to, we're learning about the technology. It is very difficult to get your hands on, but yeah, that's something that we're trying to consider. Like maybe we can put like the technology that they use for Shock's headphones right here, and you would have hearing aids within your N1 glasses.
I don't want to, you don't have to answer this question, but I would love to see this actually like in a motorcycle helmet. I drive a motorcycle, and I could only imagine like everything amplified and feeling where everything's going. You don't have to answer the question. I know we can go forward, but I think that's awesome.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to say something about that, because I was actually thinking the other day with them about potentially expanding this to more things like that, because I think like the problem of localization may not be only exclusive to individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing. Like I know for motorcycle drivers or people who do deliveries like in that format, it might be difficult for them to like know what's going on when there's like so much going on. So we're obviously thinking of that to help them as well.
Yeah, this was actually something that the NVRC did mention, because we're high schoolers, so we just started driving, but it is something that they mentioned that they had to deal with frequently. But when you drive a car, like you want to be able to hear all the like honking going on in the background, and a lot of these people can't hear those stuff. So yeah, motorcycles, car driving, like it would help in all those scenarios.
And I guess to continue adding on to them, we've also, from earlier prototypes, thought about implementing haptics. So I guess through having an Apple Watch or just having small motorized motors inside our glasses, we're able to more effectively tell the user if there is an important sound, having like that small buzz or having that small wrist on, just buzz like a little bit, and just tell them that, oh, this is an important sound that we need to look at, or yeah.
Incredible job, guys. I thought this was fantastic. My question is regarding user control. Is the user able to omit unnecessary sounds or distractions? For example, if I'm in a cafe and somebody's speaking on the phone, can I mute that?
Yeah, so like we said before, we have implemented beamforming technology, which can separate these sounds and be able to find the most important sound, as well as other sounds around it, being able to filter out all these like cafe noises or like these like muffling noises. Yeah, we do.
Yeah. So, and like to answer your question about like the tuning, like if the user can actually like modify that, yes, we don't have like an exact like physical way to do that, but in the software and in the application that we have for this, you can tune the algorithm to like change how the beamforming works so that you can modify that. So yeah,
Wonderful. Thank you.
Well done, guys. Thank you very much.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Next up, the team from Langley High School is here with his project, Sunny Talk.
Hi, I'm Jason Wu. I'm a junior at Langley High School, and I made Sunny Talk, and it's an innovative alternative communication device for older adults. Imagine a world where you're unable to express your opinions, unable to ask for help, unable to talk with your family, unable to express something as simple as pain. Now, this is reality for millions of Americans. My name is Jason Wu, and Sunny Talk aims to restore independence for older adults by giving them a voice, whether they've lost it permanently or temporarily. Over 2 million Americans are affected by aphasia, and over a third of stroke survivors develop it. In addition, 70,000 people are affected by throat or laryngeal cancer, many of whom lose their ability to speak after surgery or during recovery. Now, these aren't just numbers. This highlights a much bigger problem. Millions go without their ability to talk with their families, talk with the people they care about, and when this basic form of communication breaks down, their independence goes right along with it. Now, without a reliable way to communicate, 40 to 70% experience depression. So this shows that they aren't just losing speech. It's affecting their relationships, their daily lives, and how they communicate with their families. Now, when we look at current solutions, they don't fit the correct mold. They are designed for children and often use interfaces that feel inappropriate or immature for adults. Additionally, they can cost hundreds of dollars, requiring additional hardware that can cost anywhere from $500 to thousands of dollars. While they can be useful, they are difficult to personalize and impractical for daily use for older adults who have complex emotions and routines and require talk about important things such as medications. In addition, their price tag and structure infers long-term commitment, while most older adults only need them for temporary recovery, whether that's after surgery or during recovery. So, during these moments, it doesn't make sense to spend $300, learn a new complex interface or a child-based one, so many go without it, which is why Sunny Talk comes in. Sunny Talk is an augmentative alternative communication device designed for adults. It's built for both long-term use and short-term recovery. And Sunny Talk exists because current solutions require too much of a monetary or mental commitment. With just a one-time purchase of $30, it completely removes the need for subscriptions or external hardware devices that cost thousands. In addition, it's affordable and it's accessible on iOS. It's also extremely quick and easy to personalize immediately, allowing you to talk about anything in your surroundings. At its core, Sunny Talk allows users to tap icons to communicate immediately. It uses structured visual categories in order to reduce the amount of reading required and reduce the cognitive load. This is especially important for those with cognitive or language difficulties. In addition, you don't have to search up words or type out phrases. Rather, it uses intuitive visual building blocks so you can speak easily. Now, to demonstrate, I will be showing you live how Sunny Talk can have the power to help you communicate. With just a couple taps, I can say something simple, like,
I need help. I need help.
And just like that, it's that easy. But what's really impressive about Sunny Talk is its ability to be customized. So I can talk about basic or specific communication items. For example, if I wanted to talk about a hobby, like photography, I could scan this camera easily, use the app to generate a label with AI, select the category to place it in, let's say activities, and now it's an actionable button that I can talk about my personal life easily with.
Camera.
But let's say we want to talk about something more critical, something more important to everyday use. Let's add some medication. Now we can easily scan the icon again, just like we did before. We can use manual input to double check the labels. And then add it to the medication category. This keeps everything organized, personal, and safe to communicate in everyday needs. Now I can easily form a sentence with what I added.
I need to take atorvastatin. Cameron, I need to take atorvastatin.
And just like that, it's that easy. Now, what makes Sunny Talk different? Sunny Talk is ideal for recovery situations, after surgery, after a stroke, or other conditions where the user may regain their ability to speak. Because our priority is not to replace speech, but rather to help individuals regain it, because that is the biggest sense of freedom. In addition, as mentioned before, it has an adult-centered design, and it is also affordable and portable, cutting costs for users by over 90%. As shown, it gives you real-world personalization where you can quickly add items in your surroundings to talk about anything you want. Now, to evaluate Sunny Talk, I tested it with 12 different users, and most of them completed communication tasks within a minute. I tested at different senior centers and communities and homes in my community. In addition, with the feedback I got, here are the changes I'm making right now. Now, it was rated 1 out of 10 on the difficulty scale, meaning it's extremely easy to use. In addition, 100% of caregiver responses said that this could help their residents communicate. Additionally, 75% of users highlighted how customization was the most useful feature, placing special value on its ability to personalize and add items like medication. Based on feedback from previous testing, we've changed icon size and we've revamped the navigation. And currently, I'm working on adding notifications for activities of daily living and creating a demonstration video for when you first download the app based on most recent rounds of testing. So, Sunny Talk restores independence by making communication easy and flexible. It reduces caregiver reliance and supports coordination and organization, allowing not only users, but healthcare providers and doctors to stay aligned. Because when coordination breaks down, communication goes right along with it. So, Sunny Talk also works as a transitional device from recovering to recovered. It improves communication across caregivers and healthcare providers by making sure that everyone is on the same page. For the future, I want to integrate more languages to increase the population that can use Sunny Talk. In addition, I want to conduct more usability testing and use additional funding to use AI to get smarter suggestions based on frequency of word use and time of day. Additionally, an exciting pathway is using Sunny Talk as a messaging companion in apps such as iMessage, which makes it easier to text for when calling or texting becomes too cognitively demanding. Now, I want to leave off with something that one staff member told me at Herndon Senior Center. She told me about her father, who lost his voice near the end of his life despite being mentally capable. She said that he was able to take in his surroundings, but he was unable to speak it. And she told me how difficult it was, not only emotionally, but practically. How frustrating it was to try to coordinate between so many different doctors. And she told me something that really stuck with me. She said, "This really would have made a difference." Now I realize something. With the correct feedback and making iterations after testing, Sunny Talk could be so much more than just a communication tool. It could be a tool to help restore connection, clarity, and comfort for these families. Now, losing speech isn't just losing your voice. It's losing independence when you need it the most. And this can lead to frustration, can lead to mental breakdowns, can lead to depression. So Sunny Talk aims to restore this by providing affordable, accessible, and personalizable communication. So whether you're a long-term user or a short-term user in temporary recovery, Sunny Talk isn't just helpful, it is necessary, because having a voice should be an expectation, not an exception. Thank you.
Jason, fantastic. I really appreciate when you walked in, you owned the room, which is not very common for someone in high school. And I really like your tagline, losing speech is losing independence. That really is a very important thing. So the way this is going to work is I'll ask a question. We'll go down the road. We have about 10 minutes for questions. And then if we have time, we may do another round. But that's how we're
sounds
going to
perfect.
roll things through. So my questions around competition. As I look at your tool, I was trying to figure out how different is what you've done. And you mentioned cognitive load. That may be the separator of if I can use my phone to pick icons, can I just use my phone to write text to get what I need? Can you kind of separate how what you're doing is better than just straight texting to somebody?
Yeah, so based on usability testing at different senior centers around the area, it takes much less time to click icons, and especially looking at them visually, it takes a lot of cognitive load off. And one of the most important things is being able to identify items around your area with pictures. That's what I demonstrated by adding items, scanning them with AI. And as for competitors in the area, there are alternative communication apps that exist. But as I mentioned, many of them are designed for children. And this is the only app that uses AI to scan items and add them. And it makes it not only quicker, it makes it easier and more precise to talk about important things like medication or just hobbies. And I think that's our biggest differentiator.
Very good.
So I'm gonna ask a few different things. So I'm guessing your technology is making a fair number of assumptions. So when I think about the seniors in my life, it's very difficult for them to just use a phone to even text. So when I think about that individual now maybe, potentially a stroke survivor, now also trying to access a smartphone to do some of the things we're talking about, that sounds really pretty challenging from the interface standpoint. So from the 12 plus seniors and caregivers that you said you tested and kind of worked with, how did the seniors engage with that kind of interface, as far as like adding things using AI and all that kind of stuff? Because that's fairly new technology for a lot of people, and I would think seniors would struggle with that part of things.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. As far as testing went, the first couple rounds, it was difficult. My categories were wrong. It was complicated. You had to go into separate categories to access like different verbs. But then I grouped them more by not really by their relation, but by when they're used together in a sentence. And I found out from my second round of testing that really helped. And in addition, I found it's not that difficult for seniors to utilize this app because the icons are so big and the buttons, you can change the size. So, if my dad's phone, for example, the text is huge. You can change that on this. So whether it's your eyesight or your cognitive load, you can change not only the size of the icons, the size of the words. And I think that really helps. And as far as AI is concerned, it's not anything complex. It's simply just snapping a photo, and you just tap one single button, and it generates a label for you. So as far as that, you don't even need to know that there's AI used. It could literally just be someone on the other line telling you, oh, that's a camera. And the senior doesn't have to do anything complex. They just simply tap a button and add it to whatever category. And as far as testing went, I think 6 out of 8 seniors were used it effectively. So,
I appreciate that answer. Just a quick follow. I love the idea of sentence completion as opposed to just kind of a category and then you're drilling down into other categories. Putting it together where you're basically kind of creating a statement for someone, I think definitely reduces cognitive load. So I love that idea. I think you might also want to consider maybe some kind of interactive tutorial as people kind of go through it too. That'll help you help the users kind of develop some familiarity with the app as they learn how to use it.
Yeah, that's something that I in my most recent round of testing, that's something that one of the caregivers mentioned. They're like, oh, so if someone downloads this from the App Store, it's kind of, I mean, once you get it, but like first you have to like figure out how to add stuff. Maybe you should add like a tutorial in the beginning right when you download it, or a help button in each section that is just like a quick screen share on how to do things to make things go even quicker. So yeah, as I mentioned, I'm definitely working on adding that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Nice job.
Thank you.
How's it going, Jason? I really like your idea. I've never heard of anything like that before, but I heard you mention for iOS, but there's two major cell phone companies, Apple and Android. So if I was you, I would make sure that you could have it for both, because I have an Android, you might have an iPhone, but if you only have an iPhone app, then I can't use your app.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure it's on all platforms.
Yeah, definitely, because I mean, there's a lot of people, like, I think improving accessibility is one of our biggest things, right? That's why I want to add more languages. I mean, I tested it with different people, different people who speak different languages. And so, again, back to your point, not everyone has the same phone or has the same technology. So I want to make sure it's integrated across like as many platforms as I can. I initially got started on iOS because I just use Swift UI, which is what they code in, and that's what I know the best. But after I polish it and publish it on iOS, then I have to definitely add it to, you can always expand it to increase your population. So
good job.
Thank you.
So I have the pleasure of working with adults who use alternative communication devices, and I know that this one is supposed to be marketed towards adults and elders. But what is your major selling point for transitioning, let's say, children or young adults moving towards this device, other than AI or other than the scanning? Because a lot of times they can just type in, especially if these are cognitive adults, they're able to type in, oh, I need my Tylenol, I need my omeprazole, whatever medicine they use. How are you going to transition them or take that market from an already established device?
Okay, so great question. AI, I think, is one of the biggest selling factors, but I'm not going to talk about that. I think one of the most important things is price, right? So one of the leading AAC apps for adults is called Prolo Quote 2 Go, and it costs $299.99, which just really doesn't make sense because it's priced for insurance, but like most people have to pay that out of pocket. So at $30, we cut costs by 90%, and I think every year there's around 800,000 strokes, right? So there's always going to be new customers coming into the market. So at a cheaper price range, integrating personalization like AI, as you mentioned, I think we can definitely take market share, because at $30 compared to $300, it almost seems like a no-brainer to purchase this app, because I feel like we do personalization as the only AAC app that uses AI to personalize. I feel like we do personalization just that much better. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Jason. Wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
I have a question that's a little more towards the future, because I think the utilization of AI for AAC devices is huge. I think that is an incredible idea. Do you have any ideas on how you can utilize it even more in the app?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I go back here, as I mentioned, so it's kind of broad here. It says smarter suggestions. But what I mean by that is it might not be AI, but for example, when you're texting or when you're sending an email, when there's like a grayed out, it's like because you say it so much, it's like good morning. So when you type GOO, it fills in the rest, and you can just tab to enter it. I want to be able to add that. So based on the time of day and based on the frequency use of words, it can create kind of data for each individual user to make it so easy that there can just be a grayed out information there, and the user can just swipe to the right and complete the sentence, making communication that much more seamless and that much more fast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason, thank you very much.
Thanks to today's Shark Tank teams for their excellent presentations and to our judges for their thoughtful feedback. That wraps up episode 1 of the 2026 Fairfax Area High School Student Shark Tank Technology Challenge. In episode 2, we will see more amazing projects. I'm Carmen Trina Kiris with the Department of Neighborhood and Community Services. Thanks for watching.